Every so often a game comes along that takes over your entire life. It's all you can think about when you're at work or school, hanging out with friends. It occupies every waking thought and keeps you playing until the sun starts creeping over the horizon and slowly starts to shine into your bedroom through the cracks in your blinds. Well, that was me for the last week playing 17-bit's new survival game Song in the Smoke. I'd play for 5 or 6 hours straight, call it a day, and then somehow find myself back in the headset around 2 a.m., desperate to see what was around the next corner. And I have to say that I was never disappointed. The best way I can describe the opening moments of Song in the Smoke is the feeling of being helpless. You're naked, running around the deadly foreign wilderness without weapons, tools, or even a basic understanding of what you need to do to survive. And that feeling doesn't go away for a while. I found myself hiding in bushes and being the world's biggest coward when night fell, because even building a simple campfire that will last you until sunrise will, at first, seem like a monumental task. But over the course of the first few hours, something magical starts to happen. You'll start making fires faster and more efficiently. You'll discover that the basic building blocks to craft rudimentary weapons are all around you. And slowly but surely, as you venture further and further away from camp, this strange new dangerous world starts to feel a little more safe and a little more familiar, and eventually begins to feel like home. But that's how Song in the Smoke lures you in, because as dangerous as the first area felt, in hindsight, it was all just a ruse, and the new levels you ascend to are scary as all f***. And I don't mean scary in the horror movie sense, I mean scary in the how the hell am I ever gonna survive this sense. Your mission in each area is to collect these 3 purple singing stones scattered around the map, which triggers a boss fight and then ultimately reveals the entrance to the next area. But leaving it at that would mean ignoring everything you're doing in the meantime, which, to put it simply, is a gameplay loop that puts Saints and Sinners' awesome scavenging runs and crafting elements to shame. A lot of your early hours will be spent making arrows out of sticks and rocks and making clubs out of, well, bigger sticks and bigger rocks. And once you get the hang of how the inventory system works, you'll discover just how immaculate the crafting system here is. You don't just drag and drop items on top of each other or select what you want to craft from a menu. Instead, you'll actually hold the stick in one hand, and with the other hand, carve it with a knife to make an arrow shaft. And then take a small stone and fashion it into an arrowhead by pounding it with your billet. And then finally, you take the two and combine them together to craft a fully formed arrow ready for flight. If this seems slow and tedious, well, it is at first, but it increases the overall level of immersion, and learning how to do it fast made me feel like I really understood this world and how to survive. Speaking of immersion, I love that Song in the Smoke eschews a traditional HUD in favor of a tribal watch that monitors your health, hunger, exhaustion, and more. There are some on-screen cues and sound effects to let you know when you should eat or sleep, but for the most part, your vision is free and clear, really allowing you to take in all the sights and sounds. It might not be apparent at first, but the art design here is stunning, from the animals that inhabit this world to the trees and waterfalls, and when you combine all of this with massive draw distances and beautiful sunsets, I was often in awe at the world all around me. But of course, so much of your time playing Song in the Smoke isn't about looking, it's about listening, sometimes for prey and sometimes for predators. So luckily the 3D audio here is on point. I always knew if there was something nearby, and in between it all was a mesmerizing ambient soundtrack that could sometimes be just a single note. It felt, I don't know, primitive I guess, but also extremely effective at conveying the mood. I spent so much time in the first few areas exploring every corner of the map, leveling up my character, building multiple campsites with tanning racks, drying racks, and extra storage, that occasionally I forget the point of the game was to progress and finish it. So every time I moved into a new area, it was with a great deal of reluctance. And soon I realized just how big of a game Song in the Smoke really is. There are 7 giant maps and 1 tutorial map, and if you play through at a cautious pace like I did, this game will easily take you anywhere from 20 to 30 hours to complete, and somehow by the end I still didn't want it to be over. So is Song in the Smoke perfect? Well, it really depends how you look at it. Some people will scoff at the teleportation-based jumping and climbing mechanics, but I was happy that it kept me from falling to my doom and made climbing and dodging in combat so much easier. So my one real complaint would be that the game has a tendency to repeatedly explain things that you already know, and these messages oddly appear in the world while you're running around, even hours into the game, but then doesn't really explain some of the more advanced building mechanics, or, I don't know, how to heal your wounds when you're bleeding out. But it's a small sacrifice in the long run, because in turn, the sense of discovery whenever you learn something new on your own is just incredible. It's funny, there's a lot of tribal imagery and a few abstract cutscenes that are placed sporadically through Song in the Smoke's epic adventure. But the story I remember isn't one the game ever told me. It's the story of me, my character, inexplicably dropped into the wilderness, naked, alone, afraid, who slowly became one with his surroundings and learned to overcome the dangers and obstacles that were placed in front of him. His story is my story, and the freedom to play Song in the Smoke however you want means that everyone who plays it will have their own version of that story, which makes this game feel, somehow, intensely personal. As I mentioned throughout the course of this review, it excels in practically every area, from art design and sound to controls, crafting, and immersion. But it's far more than the sum of its parts. Song in the Smoke is truly a masterpiece.